All right. I think I've given enough countdown to get going here. So good evening. I would like to call the City of Mount Vernon City Council meeting for Thursday, November 12, 2020 to order. The time is now 6:01. This is via code, normally not on a Thursday, but because holiday was on a Wednesday, we're here tonight. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and do our Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd join me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I thought that went well. All right, item C is our roll call of council members. So I'll go slow here. So Councilmember Molinar.
Here.
Councilmember Beaton.
Here.
Councilmember Holst.
Here.
Councilmember Hudson.
Here.
Councilmember Carillas.
Here.
And Councilmember Brocksmith.
Here.
All right, thank you. Under our consent agenda tonight, we have 4 items: the approval of the October 21st study session minutes, the approval of the March 11 Public Works Committee minutes, the approval of November 5th payroll and checks and direct deposit checks, and the approval of the November 12 claims.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Mary and a second by Gary. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 And any opposed? Right, motion carries. Thank you. Under reports tonight, as we've been doing, item A is a review of emails from the public. These are public comments sent to the email council@mountvernon.gov. And I'll ask Peter Donovan to share the public comments with us. Peter.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Council. So during this time where Council's unable to meet in person, this is a way where the public can address City Council with concerns or comments. So again, the email address council@mountvernon.gov is where people can send their comments, and they will be read right here. There are 4 emails this week, and I will start with one from Carolyn Peterson from Alpine View Drive. Carolyn writes, "To the Council, a sincere request for our safety. The landscaping in the middle of the roundabout at Division and Waugh has matured to the point of blocking one's ability to see or yield before entering the circle. Specifically, driving from Eaglemont to the roundabout with the intention of continuing straight on Waugh Road is dangerous. The evergreen tree and bushes are blocking the view of being able to see the oncoming traffic. When coming to the circle, one needs to see what is happening to all vehicles in the circle and those waiting, yielding to their left before entering the circle. Furthermore, the landscaping is inappropriate for a roundabout, not only for safety, but aesthetically. It is labor intensive, poorly maintained, and clearly who is maintaining it doesn't know much about horticulture. I am referring to all landscaping in the middle of the circle, as well as the other areas leading up to the circle. A quick safety fix would be to remove the tree and large bushes in the middle of the circle immediately. Then in the early spring, weeding out and designing a pleasant and safe landscaping using what is already there and finding a new home for the excess. This request is first and foremost intended for our safety. Sincerely, Carolyn Peterson." The next email is from Chloe Clark from Mount Vernon. Chloe writes, "I write this to urge City Council to abolish library fines for children and young adult books and account holders. Fines are not only an unreliable revenue stream, but also an antiquated and regressive policy. Locally, the following libraries do not have any fines: Burlington, Cedar-Woolley, LaConner, Anacortes, and there are no fines countywide in Snohomish County, Island County, Whatcom County, and King County. In fact, Snow Isle Library System abolished all fines 36 years ago. Of course, Mount Vernon City Library is unique in some ways, but this just highlights how out of step we are with the best practices in library policy. All of these libraries have overcome the erroneous thinking that removing fines will create a moral hazard by establishing other policies that encourage responsibility, such as blocking accounts until books are returned. This practice incentivizes returning books on time without establishing a barrier to continued reading and library use. There's considerable research showing that each tax dollar invested in public libraries returns between $4 and $5 back to the community. However, this is only the case when libraries are actually used by our youngest learners. Public libraries provide a wealth of services, but for children, they create a sense of community, provide opportunities for learning, support literacy and education, and serve as a touchstone that spans generations. My children are fortunate enough that they will never be wanting for money, for fines, or transportation to the library to return books on time. But of course, there are other children in Mount Vernon where money and transportation are not assured. Ultimately, fines, therefore, become regressive in nature on our poorer residents. These residents are the ones that benefit most significantly from library access, and when they embrace library use, the results are lower crime rates, higher graduation rates, and lower unemployment in their community. Let's together modernize Mount Vernon City Library's policies and take a step forward in improving our community for years to come. With gratitude, Chloe Clark. And a couple of letters were mailed in to City Council, and I will read those to you. On behalf of everyone at Neighbors in Need Food Bank, I want to thank Mayor Boudreau and the City Council for CARES Act grant of $10,000. This support will allow us to continue to meet the increasing need for the services we have provided this community for over 48 years. Our COVID-19 story is no different than any food bank in the country. A sudden decrease in the number of volunteers, a need to redesign the way we deliver services, a huge increase in the number of people becoming food insecure, and expenses that were not planned for in our budgets. The huge outpouring of support from this community gave us the confidence that we could meet this challenge for however long it lasts. I hope you know how fortunate you are as mayor and city council members to live and serve in a community that truly looks out for one another. We are grateful that you have joined with us to make the lives of our neighbors in need a little easier. Stay safe, mask up, wash up. Rudy Kirkvallite, Board President. And finally, a letter mailed in from the Diaper Bank of Skagit County. The Diaper Bank of Skagit County wishes to express our gratitude to Mayor Boudreau and the City Council for facilitating the process necessary to approve the Diaper Bank for receiving a $10,000 coronavirus relief grant. The original study of diaper need in 2010, 2 years after families faced a major economic recession, helped us recognize diapering can be a source of joy for mothers, but a significant source of psychological strain for families who are struggling. Prior to this, we did not know that much about parents' perspectives on keeping their infants clean and dry. These findings help us understand the role of a simple necessity for a child's care and for adult and child well-being. While numerous health and social services, food and clothing banks are dedicated to helping families suffering financial hardships, little attention has been paid to ensuring families have enough diapers for their babies. The National Diaper Bank Network, founded in 2011, is leading the way. We're pleased to be a certified member. Thank you. Together, we are making all the difference for Skagit families and children. Our best, Callista and Dean Scott. Mayor, that's all of the letters from the public.
Okay. Just for City Council, if you'd like us to, we'll reply to Ms. Peterson, sorry if I remember that right, about the roundabout at Wow Road. As you all know, it is designed to have a significant amount of foliage and plants in the middle so that you do not see over for safety. So we'll make sure that we get some information there. The maintenance, yes, it has been lacking this year. We've been down, as you know, 500 hours a week in our parks, but we'll do our best to make sure that that's weeded in the future. And regarding fines, right now we're not collecting fines in our library. Certainly if council would like to look at that in the future, we're happy to, and have the library board weigh in on that as well. So, all right, and appreciate the thank you letters as well. Okay, item B tonight is a miscellaneous department updates. We're gonna do our Public Works Department first. So Esco and his crew are here, and I'm just gonna let Esco take it away. Esco.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We've got several slides. We'll move through it real quick. Should be less than 10 minutes. And Bill Bullock's going to run the slides, and Blaine and Bill and me will all chime in as we go. So go ahead, Bill, and Blaine will have the first slide.
Okay, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, on Monday, November 2nd, the National Weather Service gave us a prediction of 29 and a half feet at the Riverside gauge. As many of you know, 28 foot at the Riverside gauge is the flood stage. However, that is not a flood for Mount Vernon. It starts at CCS is our low area, a commercial cold storage, and that's at about 31. However, 29 and a half is close enough for us to make us start to feel a little uncomfortable and wanting to start getting some of the steels in. So in consultation with the mayor and ESCO, we made a determination to start putting the steels in the downtown from the Division Street down to Kincaid in, except for the plaza area. We held off on those. So as you can see, there's a picture here of our street crew, and they are putting in some of the steels at the Kincaid Street closure on November 4th. Right there, I just wanted to highlight that little, yeah, Bill is showing it to you right there. That is something our shop made that attaches to the back of these that makes it really easy for the guys to just flip that up on end and put it in to the slot where they can bolt it down. So it's much easier than grabbing that little eyelet on the top and trying to put it in there. So that's a great little device that they made. So next slide. And then this is just a picture of one really handsome strapping dude standing next to some of those steel braces down by the Montgomery Street closure. So I had a great photographer, Esco, taking a picture there. So next slide. Moving on to the Maddox Creek Culvert removal project. In October, Williamson Construction finished some of the trail work, which was completed. And as you can see on the south end there, where there's that solid white line, they finished that section. And then up on the north end, where there's another solid white line, they also finished that section. And then if you go down to where the fence is, where you see the X's along the stream, they completed that section of trail and the fence along the stream. Just up above that, there's a dashed section. The Parks Department is going to put that kind of goes through the woods, and we didn't want Williamson Construction with their heavy machinery in there amongst the trees and on that steep slope. So that section of trail will be done by the trail builders or whoever Parks decides to have complete that section. But that's the only section left to be completed. And then, of course, the bridge over the stream there will have to be completed at some point too. But that's what's been done with the trail, and that's all been completed. We can go to the next slide. Here's a picture of the site the way it is today. Actually, this one was taken on November 4th, so last week. They also put some additional logs down in the stream on November 3rd. So they finished that. The stream side riparian plantings will get put in early spring. And you can see down there, you can see the fence just down by the stream there. That was the fence I was just referring to in the picture. And there's a trail that you can't see really well there, but there's a trail right along that fence. So that's pretty much all I have on that project.
It's your turn, Bill.
Yes, good evening, Council. Got a few things to update you on and some kind of cool show and tell things. So our 2020 street improvement program, so we're going to roll through these. We got our 2020 street improvement program, the paving we did, the curb ramp phase begins in January, and then the North 19th stream rehabilitation project, which was the culvert repair, is now completed. And then the Colshan Trail Safety Lighting Project is currently out to bid. So those bids come in on the 24th of November. So we're excited about that as well. So the paving phase of the street improvement program, like I had said, all paving's been completed. All the utility lids have been adjusted, although Freeway Drive got adjusted last week. And then all the striping has also been completed. So the construction cost of this particular phase was about $690,000 by Lakeside Industries. This year, we paved a portion of Freeway Drive from Kincaid to Cameron Way, a portion of 16th Avenue or 16th Street, 20th Street and 21st Street here in red, and then another portion of Blackburn by the railroad tracks. So here's a quick picture of the grinding operation, grinding off and setting the grade for the new pavement. And then a couple pictures of the asphalt going down, both with the rollers and then the paving machine. So North 19th Stream Rehabilitation. This was an emergency project that we completed, and we just completed it about a month ago. The existing culvert's been removed or decommissioned. There was a bottom portion of the culvert that we filled with concrete and left it in place to help shore up the slopes. The new stream channel's been reestablished and all the slopes have been stabilized. So the if you remember, the engineer's estimate on this project with 2019 cost was about $185,000. Our bid from Oceanside was $139,000, a little bit more. And then we were able to complete the project. We had quite a few unknowns, but we were able to complete it for $140,600, so less than $1,000 over. So some different pictures. This picture here on the right is what's left of the north side culvert. So if there was any doubt we needed to do this, we have a bunch of potato chips. And then I took one picture just to prove that we actually had fish in this particular culvert and stream area. So now this next section of slides I've set up, I'm going to go through them fairly quickly, about one every second or two, and you'll be able to see this culvert project kind of build itself from the bottom up. And then I've got a short video to show you. So here's the project that we started out with this August. And that's what it looked like last week. So I know that was kind of quick, but I thought it was kind of cool to have a stop action thing. And then something many of you probably haven't seen before, they were able to sling all the topsoil on this project over 120 feet. So this is just a short video to show you what that looked like. So they were willing or able to stick 50 yards of topsoil in 3 hours on the entire project and didn't get anything but very residual dust into the stream. So it was really cool to watch. I don't know if many of you seen that, but that's what it looks like. So very successful project, very excited with it. It's already reestablished itself, and
Okay.
I don't know, it's just cool.
Excellent
Okay.
visuals, Bill. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Cool.
See
All
if
right.
council has any questions, though. Does the council have any questions about? We went through some of that pretty quick. It's kind of fun to see things get done, though, because that's been a problem for quite a while, that 19th Street. So, yay. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Maren. I've got the last couple topics. Just wanted to give you a quick update on the wastewater treatment plant admin building. We've been working on that for about a month. We're really happy that the council and mayor awarded that and moving ahead with it. It's been a couple of decades since the last improvement, in spite of, and while the town's grown a lot and the staff's bigger, so it's definitely needed. So right now we're working on the demolition, the site work, and the underground utilities. It's moving along well, and we should have it done in February, March next year. Next slide, please. And so this is just a photograph of a couple photographs showing the work of the site work there. And that concrete building is the existing admin building. And next slide, please. And you can see we've already, the project has about a little bit north of 3,000 square feet. Some of it is the remodel of the existing spaces and some of it is new addition. So we pretty much removed, demolished all we need to start working on that. And then you got this cool picture looking through there at the machine through the window doing the site work. Lots of utilities up close to this building that we had to relocate and reestablish. So almost done with that. Next slide, please. Okay. And then another project that, of course, the downtown flood protection project has been done for a couple of years, but there is a 70-foot gap. And next slide, please. There's a 70-foot gap in that project where it ties into Interstate 5. So this is looking north on the mainline railroad track. Off to the left would be where Alliance Park is, and Freeway Drive is over there on the left where that truck is. And to the right is the interstate. And in the middle of it, where you see those green facilities and the brown steel, that's where the crossing is over the mainline railroad track. So, you know, that 70 feet is a really tough place to do, because you got to close down the railroad and work with railroad staff. And so we've been just having a really successful thing. A lot of people have a lot into this success. The mayor, of course, has done a lot for the PR and the work. And then lots of people on staff have got a piece of this. Anyway, here it is where we've, you know, let's go to the next slide. So here we are. You can see these steel H piles that are right here. We're looking at a crib wall and those H piles were driven like a year or so ago. So this time in October, the end of October, we were able to do some of this fill behind that crib wall up against the slope that goes up to the interstate. And then next slide, please. And then this is actually BNSF staff who's building this concrete foundation that goes between this crib wall and this green brace. And then go to the next slide, please. So there it is, poured and done. And what we'll do is the green apparatus has a slot there for stop logs, and we'll weld another apparatus onto the steel onto the right, and we'll be able to stack aluminum stop logs on top of that. And then Bill, point over toward the left at the mainline railroad tracks. You can see the rubber stuff in there around the tracks, and there's a fitting that's been made, and we've already put that on there, working with them. So we've got that piece done. So the next thing to do, maybe in the next month or two, is another concrete pad just on the other side of the concrete tracks. And then, yeah, so, oh, and one thing also to mention is while we were doing this, we were able to line the sewer line that's between the railroad and the I-5. Really tough to get in there. That sewer was in bad shape, and we got that lined at the same time. So this was really a good thing going on here. Next slide, please. And then the last thing.
Esco,
yes.
Tell us about that culvert. Is that just for normal drainage that you can close it off, or what's the story?
Yes, that's for normal drainage, and definitely the railroad wanted that. It'll be easy just to stop that up. You know, we've got, you know, in different places where we have openings through the flood wall system, and you just close them off. A lot of them have valves. This one will just put a sandbag in it.
Oh, okay. All right, thanks.
Yep, you bet. And then the last thing I want to mention is about a maintenance shop canopy addition that I'd like to propose. Been talking to the mayor about this, and of course, the council and the mayor know that, you know, we've been working on major shop facility project for years, and it's many millions of dollars, and it's you got to be phased. And right now, it's just not feasible to move forward on that during the pandemic, and probably, I don't know how long in the aftermath of it, but still, I would like to propose doing something that we can do right now, and that's a 40-foot by 60-foot steel canopy on a concrete foundation. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in the next slide, but I'll say first we considered some other things. We're looking at something that's not very expensive, something we can do right now. And so we were originally thinking about building just 2 bays right against, proposing building 2 bays right against the existing shop. But, you know, we are in the flood zone there. And so as soon as you start doing that, you'd have to modernize the existing building, and it starts becoming not feasible right away. And so, you know, you have to put it up above the flood, move it away from the existing shop. And so it became more expensive and not feasible for what we were trying to do. We also thought about maybe, you know, we have a structure that has several, a canopy and several open bays, 5-bay canopy. And we thought maybe it might be worth trying to close that in. But you start running into money, and those are still low. They're like, you can't fit our fire trucks or you know, any of our garbage trucks or anything like that. So again, that won't help us much spending money on that. Next slide, please. So that's how we came up with this idea of just doing the shop canopy. It's something it's relatively inexpensive. We do it right now. And it's not wasted money by any means. This is something 40 by 60, that's pretty large. It'll fit any of our equipment under that, be out of the rain. It's going to be conservatively less than 500,000. I mean, the estimate I had for building a full 2-bay building was 600,000. So this is going to be quite a bit less than that. It actually, let's go to the, and it'll still, even while we're phasing the big shop project in the future, this will still be a useful structure where we can park our facilities for storage and things like that. So what I'm proposing, here's our sketch of it. We'd put it with a slab right next to the existing shop building. We'd put a door, 6x8 or 8x8 roll door in the existing building. This canopy also, we'd be allowed to have one wall on it. We'd put a wall in the back. And it would have a reinforced concrete slab. So that's something, what if you'd allow us to go ahead and we've got all the specs we need to put it out for proposal. You wouldn't have to make a final decision till we have some real numbers down the road in a month or so. And that's what I would ask to proceed with and let you reconsider that when we have real numbers, whether you want to award the bid.
Esco, I have a quick question for you. Are you there, Esco?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I didn't know if I was coming across or not. I don't know. It may have been a year or so ago. I sent you some information on they're called Sprung, or the company's name is Sprung Buildings. They're a steel frame with a canvas covering. They're being used a lot in different areas. Did we ever check into that and see how that might work for this kind of a proposal?
Well, I've looked into as soon as we start putting walls on this or canvas or anything like that, it starts triggering those FEMA regulations, and I have to raise it up in the air, and I have to move away from the building that we're adjacent to. So what I'm talking about here is not, it's not the ultimate shop facility that we're going to propose, which is, a 10,000 square foot facility, and maybe we want to do it with those kind of structures you're talking about. So instead, I'm talking about something that's much, much lower scope than that. And if I do anything that encloses this, again, it triggers all these FEMA regulations and makes it so it's not really feasible for what we're trying to do right now. So that's why it's a canopy with no walls. It has one wall and no canvas walls or anything or any kind of fabric. It's just a simple steel roof, but the concrete slab will be like a 12-inch reinforced slab. And you're going to need that for whatever you build. But this thing, it's a workaround to get by for several years, and it'll be useful. But it doesn't do what we're trying to do with build a new 10,000 square foot shop or even a phase of it. It's just something that will be, for a couple $100,000, it'll be very useful. It'll help us right now. It's something we can do right now, and it's not a waste of money in any way.
So one thing that when we were trying to look at all these different options, we've been trying to figure out something for, probably over a year or even more. I know councils, express when they see Gary out there working on the ground in the rain. And so, when we're looking at a new shop or even a new, say, building for Gary, and S was going to have to remind me, but it's several $1 million just for that. And knowing that we just can't get there right now, trying to figure that out. So Mark, I love that idea. I wish that we could have even canvas walls on it, but when we have to then build it up 3 feet and then move it, I don't know how many yards away from existing buildings, and it just made it so it wasn't even that useful. But like with this, we've got a lot of equipment, specifically most of our parks equipment is stored without any covering at all, which, degrades the lifespan of some of these equipment. So like Esco said, even in the future, say 5 years in the future, we're building a new shop. This is not, wasted money. It's certainly something that would be utilized and kind of the best we could propose for now.
Yeah, what the mayor is talking about, the 10,000 square foot facility, it's a concept, it's a budget level estimate. It's 6.6 million. So even if we were able to figure out how to do that at a, and that's just a big rectangle metal buildings. So, even if we can find a way to deliver that quite a bit cheaper, it's still millions and several millions. And so, yeah, that's just, I just didn't want to, it's one thing after another we need a workaround is what I'm just to get us by. And this won't hurt anything. And it's, like I said, this is stripped down. We can put, of course you can put electrical over there, outdoor electrical. You can plumb it for the air hoses. You can roll stuff from one building to the next. I know it's, if you have wind and everything else, you'll still have weather. It's not, it's not enclosed, but it's a big improvement over what we're doing right now. And that's a pretty good sized coverage, 40 by 60. And we'll have it wide open, the span, so that, you can that makes it very useful.
So council also may be wondering how we would pay for this. And so Doug has a slide. I don't know if you're prepared to share right now or if you're waiting for the...
I am ready if
okay.
I can share my screen.
Okay. Doug was going to show you what we would propose, how to pay for it. But again, if we get the go ahead, we could go out to bid and then have some really hard numbers to present. And so there's several times council could, make those decisions. But go ahead, Doug.
Okay. So first of all, ESCO did say that it was going to be substantially below 500. So my numbers might be off here a little bit because I did do this for $600,000. But based off of the current, all the equipment that each of the department has on the left-hand side here, I put in a percentage and then value for all the departments, how much they would have to be paying for it in the different funds. So the blue are all the general governmental funds, and then the green are each other fund that would have to contribute. So the general governmental funds is about 58%. So that's about $350,000 if it was 600,000. Obviously, it'll be about lower if it's lower than that. So what we would do is we do have in our budget for 21 in REIT in our 21 budget $200,000 projected to be in there, and then so we would still be $150,000 short, which we would probably have to use additional REIT 1 or general fund surplus revenues for that. So we would have to just basically what this slide is just showing is that we would have to divvy it out between the funds in the most correct manner possible. So what I used here was just the numbers of equipment owned by each one.
Any questions for Doug about how we would patch together paying for it?
I just think it's something that we really need to look at as far as moving forward with, because if you go down to the city shops and you tour the shop and you watch the conditions that our employees are working under, it's not a good situation. So anything we can do to give them some protection from the weather and get them indoors and a little bit safer work environment, I think we need to move forward with.
Thank you. We'll do it. Oh, of course,
any objections for us to go ahead and go out to bid and see what the price tag comes back with? Because if it's substantially different than what we've thought, it's a different conversation. So would that be all right with? Oh, go ahead, Richard. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess my question is sort of how well does it fit into the long-term plan? So I know that there's been various concept level pieces and even a little bit more than concept. So is the master plan for this area to be a facility that's about 40 by 60? In other words, while the slab is reusable, is the building structure buildable, usable, so that you can wall it in and the plumbing and everything would be there, and we could. So I'm trying to get at how much temporary money is this versus usable long-term building towards that vision.
Right.
And it's hard to know from those sketches,
Right. And certainly I wouldn't want us to be undermining our long-term strategy. And it's going to take like 3 phases. And so the shop is not going to be located at that spot. It won't affect that at all. The 10,000 square foot new facilities. So we're going to have to like build, we've got solid waste facilities. It doesn't affect those. They're out of that area. We got to build those. We got to build a new shop, 10,000 square feet. The whole thing is many millions of dollars, $20 million worth of stuff. So it's going to be stretched out over several years. And then the third phase will be back where we get down to this area. And we might have to do, we're not going to, it's not going to be a throwaway. And that'll be several years in the future. When we get to that phase, to the street crew phase of the construction will be in that area. And so that'll be several years away, and it's not going to be a throwaway for the work that we got to do there. We'll be demolishing some of those buildings, but we can make use out of it in the long term.
Does that help answer your question, Richard?
Yes, it's not relevant to that spot, but it could be used in the future. It could be reutilized, and so I guess it just leaves some uncertainty.
Well, I think what we're trying to say is there is no shortage. I mean, there is a significant shortage of being able to store equipment under something to keep it out of the weather, and so the Parks Department, as I mentioned, has no place to store it. So in the future, this could be used for lots and lots of different equipment to keep it out of the weather. So it wouldn't be, or enclosed in or all that kind of stuff. But so I don't think it would at all be underutilized.
Right. So we didn't like design it to be a specific piece of a square foot of another building, but it does not undermine our long-term strategy at all. And it is not, and it will be useful, just like the mayor said. I don't think we're hurting our strategy one bit on all the other buildings. And if as soon as I try to make it that much better, it becomes a much more expensive building, and then it defeats what I'm trying to do in the short term, which is to deliver something that's within reach right this moment.
And I don't think there's any harm in going out to bid and getting some prices back on what the cost of this construction would be, and then we can make more of an educated decision once we have those numbers back.
Okay, so I think what I'm hearing and seeing is consensus that we'll go ahead and proceed out to bid, and then we'll come back and have more conversation about moving forward on it, depending on the bid. Okay.
Thank you,
Great.
Mayor and Council, and that's our report too.
All right, any questions for your public works staff? Okay, don't hesitate to call if you have a question when you're out there and you see something going, what is that? Okay, library update is up next. So Isaac Huffman, our library director, is here. Isaac.
Thank you so much. I will be quick. I just have a couple of slides to share, and I'm going to go ahead and get that rolling right now. Does everybody see the slides? Okay, good. So just a quick library update. We'll talk about where we are in the year, just a little bit of, service updates, a little bit of the changes with our public thing, and then just address the opening question, which is probably the question we get asked the most in the library and I have to answer. So I wanted to just kind of update you where we were in the county as well. So just kind of quick update about the library as a whole. As you can see here, as far as the library goes, we're about down just under 50% of our circulation. Our ordering and new materials coming in is still doing quite strong given the budget limitations that we have. Our program participation is also down and our facility use is down as well. You might be asking, why is our facility use still a number when we're not open to the public? Well, we do have a number of people who use the internet in the building as a drive-up service every day. So we do have some library use that comes from that. As a whole, these numbers are favorable in comparison to other library districts. As far as I've been able to tell, people still really like the library and are using it. The biggest barrier to our circulation or total use of the library has been our quarantine period. And we are going to ease that up a little bit, and hopefully that will add more circulation in for the public as well, because everybody's eager to get the new thing. And with a shorter quarantine, it will be available quicker, and that's in guidance with the testing that has gone on with the materials and the sort of safety standards. So just new services we're offering. Two things we're offering to the public here in the next week, one of which is you can now check out laptops at the library. So if you don't have a computer, we do have a curbside checkout procedure for laptops, and people can use them in their cars. So that will be launching here in the next week. And also we do have the return of our printing services. People can send documents to a specific library email and get them printed. Many people have sort of lost that ability, and having a low-cost printing option coming back is a really good thing for our community. So we're excited to offer those two new services back again. I also just wanted to give you a quick update about our Wi-Fi system. Here's an internal view from our MIST system. And as you can see, it now gives us location proximity to where people are in comparison to the routers themselves. It's still, we're working out the little tweaks. As you can see in our test bed, a couple of the people are outside of the building. And although the one that's connecting to router 2 really was outside of the building, the one that was connected to router number 1 was actually just inside the building. So we're working out the last little tweaks. But that should give us really nice data when it comes to tracking where the hotspots are inside of our library and where we need to make sure that we have social distancing in the future. And it's just kind of interesting as we progress in our wireless technology. So I just wanted to give you a quick little preview of that as well. Our story time to go continues to be a good service. We've adjusted a little bit and made it a little bit shorter, but Candy has done a great job in TV10 filming those segments, and we're really happy to have them as part of our library services. I think the big challenge is to find the right audience. Some of them get tons of views and some of them don't get that many. And so as we move forward, we'll be working on better ways to promote that service, but it's a nice little fill-in for the community until we're open to the public as a whole. We've also been doing a lot of seasonal programming, whether it be the Day of the Dead or this upcoming thing we're doing for Thanksgiving, where we have little grateful notes and kind of decorations. People really like the sort of seasonality of the library services. And our staff has done a great job at making our materials attractive in presentation and things that people return to. And I just wanted to commend them on that great work as well. We have gone to a new curbside service. As you can see there, the procedures outlined on the sign. You call in a phone number, you stay in the car with the windows closed, you pocket the trunk, and you have your ID ready. This has helped us be able to serve any curbside user we get, whether or not they remember their mask on that specific day. And it has just been easier for all. The big reason we made the change was just from the ergonomic constraints of lifting inside of a car was not a real great thing for the staff members, and having either on the hood or in the trunk as a lifting location has just, really been safer for the staff, and I think worked better for patrons and for our staff members alike. And so I'm happy with that change as well. We did get a nice new book drop cover as we have asked people to use the book drops, and now you can use them as drive-up book drops too. I really like this change. I think people prefer dropping off their materials from their car as a whole, and it's a nice cover for our staff to actually get the materials out, not get them wet. We have new covers for them, and so we've been able to keep our materials in better condition as we handle them. And so that was just a great addition to the library as a whole. Our public space is almost people ready. As we get closer to those guidelines, we have all of the plexiglass barriers as the one featured here in the library. Ready to go. We would make some quick changes to the way we positioned some shelves and hold items if we were actually letting people into the building. But we're getting really ready for when it is appropriate to do that work. We will be ready as a facility as a whole. And so that's just nice to make those changes as well. The last little element of that is the new front desk project. We are working hard to design a new front desk that will be, both safe for the public and also be able to be utilized in the new way we're using a desk. We have sort of conceptual drawings in place, and hopefully that project will be done here shortly. The biggest changes are better ADA height requirement, better use of resource, and the ability to use the desk from both directions, because when we're just doing curbside service, we use one side of the desk. And when we are doing service with the public, we're using the other side of the desk. So just adapting to that COVID need, I think is a really good thing. And the way that the design has been incorporated has been really nice to work with our local design team and to get that work done. So just the final thing we've been asked a lot is our reopening timeline and what that would look like. We don't know exactly what's happening with the new governor's guidance, although I've heard quite a few rumors about that. But in general, we're gonna have to wait until our case count goes down. And then once we have a good and stable base, the library will have to recruit staff, train staff, and then we can reopen. So once we're to a good, stable place in our community, it will be about 6 weeks, give or take, until we're actually open to the public. So, that's kind of where we're headed. A lot of the library districts were talking about reopening this year, but it doesn't look like they probably will, given the case count numbers at the moment. I think as we enter next year and we work together, we'll find a time when all of the libraries can actually come on board close to each other and offer in-person services again together. And I think that will be a great thing to just do that in coordination. So I've been talking to both the directors in Skagit County and also those in Whatcom County. And when we actually get to a date, I hope that we all sort of open as once to the public so that that service comes back and we have the users in the building. And with that, that's all I have for a library update today.
Any questions for Isaac?
I had one question for Isaac.
Sure.
You're redesigning the front desk, which is probably a wise thing to do. I was just wondering if we're going to look to incorporate any more self-check machines or anything in that process.
Yeah, the basic idea is that we actually just bought new self-check machines right before COVID, so we're like a good number of machines. But the basic idea is to encourage people to use self-check as much as possible. This is both because of, safety and hygiene issues, but also we actually have had good feedback from the public that a lot of people actually prefer to just go in, pick up the materials, use the self-check and leave. And, although we always like to be helpful, some people don't want help. So we want to make sure that we provide that experience as well in our facility.
Great. I just think that'd be a useful tool, especially during the times that we're in right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the new front desk, we can move to the new library
That's right.
when we have it. Sorry, Richard, go ahead.
No, that's good. Thank you. So I guess my question is on the library fees topic that came up earlier. And I seem to remember us talking about this about a year ago, and that you said that that this was best practice. People are moving that way. You thought we might be, tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth, and you were putting some steps in place to do that. Is that right? And what is a timeline for us to consider something like that?
Yeah, so as right now, as we're doing sort of COVID, we've built the budget without fines because it just didn't make sense when we were closed to the public. And our 2021 budget does not include fine revenue. So it really can be something that we do procedurally as we move into 2021 and reopen to the public. We're positioned to, go fine free if, that's the determination of the library board, which I think, is definitely something they can review and determine. So I think we could do it next year if we wanted to. And we will most likely do it next year anyways because of COVID.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Isaac? Okay. I just also wanted to commend Isaac and his staff. They have been the department that has flexed and been the most creative on delivering services. And so as they, do basic books drop, and then they kind of thought about the printing, and then they thought, I mean, it's really fun to see that group really serve the public and be creative on how they can do it. So thank you, Isaac, and your entire staff.
Thank you.
Okay, item C tonight is council member comments. Any council member comments tonight? Hey,
Mayor,
Councilmember Beaton there.
yes,
Unmuted.
yes.
Go right ahead.
I just wanted to take a moment. I recently had a conversation with a gentleman who really said thank you to the city of Mount Vernon for having our council meetings on Zoom. And it was nice to hear that. It was nice to hear a nice compliment. And in all honesty, I did not realize that not everybody was Zooming with their council meetings. And so we're very fortunate. And I wanted to take a moment to thank Candy Galindo, Keith Kingsland, and then Alex Severin is now back. I just want to point out that back in May, the city lost 10 full-time employees, 21 part-time employees. And these are people. Of those employees, 2 part-time were from TV10 and 1 full-time was from TV10. And so for a very long time, it was just Candy that was bringing us live to the folks at home every week. And there are challenges with that. And so I just wanted to say thank you to them. I know there are people out there that are tuning in. They are very thankful. The screen sharing with all of our chiefs and our department heads, putting all of what we're doing in the city on display. And so I just wanted to say thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right. Any other council member comments tonight?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind the public, I've had a number of inquiries, especially in the last week, about some homeless folks that are still out on the street, and rental assistance and those kind of things. And I want folks to remember that council, along with the county, has set aside a fairly large amount of CARES money to help those that need rental assistance with paying their light bills. For homeless folks, there's hotel vouchers available, and if anybody has those kind of needs, they just need to contact community service or community action. I'm sorry, and they can get into that process and get the help that they need. Right now, there's really no reason for anybody to be homeless and on the street, because there are a lot of resources available.
Okay. Any other council member comments too? Okay. Moving on to mayor's report. So I just had one thing. I was going to share my screen and talk to council a little bit about just the meeting schedule until the end of the year. And of course, I'm going to be the one that can't make this happen. Okay. Now, it should say November 2020, right? Okay. So I just wanted to show kind of by code, by code we have, of course, as you know, 2 business meetings a month on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays. And this month has been a little different. Our first one was on a Wednesday, Veterans Day, so we're having it tonight. The week of Thanksgiving, by code, we have a meeting on Tuesday, and that's if that's the 4th meeting of them, or 4th Wednesday, and it is. And so what I wanted to just go through was, here's what we proposed for November and then December, that we would go ahead and schedule a meeting. And what we have been doing is having our kind of committee updates per se at the beginning under reports. So we would have our development services update and our finance update then, and then of course our regular agenda items that would come before the city council. And then in November, in December, it would be a little different because you have some important decisions to make. So the 9th would be a regular meeting. We'd have our public safety and public works updates, agenda items, and this is that meeting where you would adjourn into executive session to look at council vacancy candidate applications and decide on interviews. December 16 would be devoted solely to those interviews. And then the 23rd, which would be the fourth Wednesday, again, would be a regular meeting with development services and finance updates and agenda items to wrap up the year. And we usually have some different budget amendments and things like that. So I just wanted to just show that to City Council and get any feedback if that, I think it would work well to get our items in there that we need. Also a reminder, sort of starting with this next week, we do have a lot of staff that take vacation time during Thanksgiving and Christmas. We also have employees still putting in some furlough days. And so when we have departments of 1 and 2, it gets scarce a little bit to get things done. So we want to be as mindful of that as possible. So does that sound like a good plan for council? Okay. And then I think in January, I'd like to sit down and considering that we may be doing remote meetings for a little while longer, we can chat about how you think it's working, what else we might want to do. So just open to suggestions for sure. Okay, great. We will go ahead and move on then. Item E tonight is our council committee agenda requests. Any of those, council? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move along into our actual action new business items. Item A is a renewal of an agreement for TV10 production services, and Kim Kleppe is here to present. Kim.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm asking for your consideration on renewing an agreement with Skagit County for TV10 production services. And even during the COVID times, in the last 6 months we've been down, we've been still providing production services to the county. This annual contract is $10,000 for about 133 hours. And we've been working with the county on TV production since fall of 2002 when we first started. We had a few years at the beginning where we didn't continue on, but it's been a very long-term contract with the county. So I'm asking for your consideration for approval of the interlocal agreement with Skagit County.
Any questions for Kim on this item?
I'd move the council authorize the mayor to enter into this agreement with Skagit County.
Second.
Motion by Mark and a second by Gary. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. Item B tonight is to set the 2021 property tax rate, and our finance director, Doug Waleski, is here. Doug.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. So tonight, staff recommends that council adopt the proposed ordinance to establish the 2021 property tax revenue amount. The City of Mount Vernon held a public hearing on October 28th of 2020 to address setting property taxes for 21 and to review revenue sources. No action was taken in regards to setting the property tax revenues at that time. Pre-MRSC, as part of the budget process, the taxing jurisdiction establishes the amount of property tax revenue needed to fund the budget. That amount needed to fund the budget is called the levy. It is the total amount to be collected from the taxpayers by a taxing district. In Washington, property tax increases are not based on the increasing value of properties. They are based on last year's property tax levy, which is simply the amount of the property taxes that were assessed in the prior year. By November 30th of each year, the amount of taxes to be levied by taxing districts are certified to the county assessor in a dollar amount. In Mount Vernon, our tax levy amount in 2020 was $7,999,977. The county assessor calculates the levy rate necessary by dividing the total levy amount by the assessed value of taxable property in the district. By law, this number is expressed in terms of a dollar rate per $1,000 of valuation. The City of Mount Vernon is required by law to hold a public hearing to review revenue sources for the coming year and to set property taxes for the coming year. The city's property tax increase is limited to the lesser of 1% or the implicit price deflactor of IPD for the year. Additionally, a city may capture 100% of the new construction and may take any bank capacity available to them. So some important factors to consider when setting the 2021 property tax include the IPD for the year is under 1%, so tax districts will be allowed to levy 0.602% more than they collected in 2020. A 0.602% increase in property taxes for the city of Mount Vernon is $52,645. This amount is not currently included in the 2021 preliminary budget. Bank capacity. As a result of the city of Mount Vernon not taking the maximum regular tax, which could lawfully be levied in past years, the city has accumulated bank level capacity of $744,987. The city also has not included any of this amount in the 2021 preliminary budget. The new construction value per the county assessor's office is $41.9 million, which will generate $88,288 of new revenue to the city in 2021. New construction was estimated at $100,000, which was included in the 2021 preliminary budget. And there is a notice of available refund levy for a total of $21,902, which was not included in the preliminary budget. So staff recommends that the City Council set the property taxes in 2021 at 100% of the 2020 revenue amount and take all new construction and refund levy allowed to the city. So in total, staff is requesting council to set our 2021 property taxes at $8,110,167, which includes a 0% increase in our levy, and then an estimate of $88,288 for new construction and $21,902 for refunds. So any questions on that at all?
Hey, Doug, can you just for viewership, when you're talking about the refund levy, what's that? So people know what we're talking about.
These are refunds that the county assessor hears about from the oh no, I can't remember which from the district that have not been paid and that they were excluded from the previous year's property taxes. So by law, we have the right to claim those then for the following year to include them in our taxes. And we had two of them this year. One was $410, and the other one was $21,000, almost $21,500.
Thank you.
Doug, just again, as for viewership, could you let the folks know what our current levy rate is for the 2020 budget and what the levy rate will be for the 2021 budget?
Yes. If it's all right, can I share my screen here for a second?
Sure.
Oh, shared my screen. Now I don't have access. Hang on a second here. Okay, we'll move that.
I panicked for a minute and thought I was still sharing my screen. So.
All right. And I'm going to go over this also in our next budget for the budget presentation. But as you can see here, looking down at this chart here, our levy rate is continues to decrease. We are at a historic low amount of actually under $2 per $100,000 of assessed value. So last year, our levy rate was $2.10.6 and our assessed value was at almost $3.8 billion. Our total levy was just around $8 million. This year, our assessed value went up over $4 billion, and which brings that levy rate down to just under $2. And again, just the only thing that's included, we are not asking for 0% increase in our levy. The only thing we're requesting is for the taxes for the new construction, and then that $21,000 for refunds. I can.
Thank you, Doug. I think the public needs to see that one, we're not raising taxes at all this year. The increase in the revenues is just from new construction, so new homes being built brought into the tax base, and that our levy rate is actually under $2 per thousand, and I don't know of any other municipality in the county that is that low.
Yeah, and so this is just another graphic just kind of showing that. As you can see in this orange line here, that's our assessed value is continuing to increase, as well as our population. And yeah, that our levy rate is at historic lows right now. Well, I don't know about how historic, but as far back as I could see anyway.
Okay, any other questions for Doug on this one? We did have a public hearing on October 28th of 2020, received no public comments, so we checked that box. So Doug, in the recommendations in their packet, you are recommending?
Yes, I am recommending that City Council will adopt the ordinance that was attached to set the city's 2021 property tax levy amount at $8,110,167.
Doug, sorry, I had one question. Sorry for council. In that, because the price deflator, IPD, because it's below 1%, are we not, or can we bank that?
Yes, we can.
Amount? Okay.
We can bank it. So we don't have to, I verified this just today. We don't have to verify it in the ordinance, but I did talk to the assessor's office, and I do have it in a letter to them. And so they will automatically put in that 0.602 or that $52,000 into a bank capacity for next year.
Okay, just want to make sure council realizes that.
Thank you. I forgot to mention that.
Okay. Unless you don't want us to do that, bank that. So.
Are you waiting for a motion?
Please.
All right. I'll make a motion that council adopt the proposed ordinance. Do we know what that ordinance number is?
It would be 3816.
3816.
Second.
Right, motion by Melissa and a second by Mark. Any other questions? All right, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, item C tonight is our public hearing regarding the 2021 budget. And Doug's going to tee this up.
Yes, let me share this again. Okay, so first of all, what we'll do is the mayor and I are going to kind of tag team on this presentation for the approval of the budget, or for the 2021 preliminary budget and the public hearing. And then after the presentation, the mayor will do the public hearing, and then hopefully we can talk about adoption. So with that, we can just begin here. And Mayor, I will have you step in whenever you want. So,
okay.
But I'll start it.
Oh, that means me?
No. So again, this process for our 2021 budget is, the same as has been. Is very mission driven, efficiency and traditional services. We do follow all our financial policies, and then also follow and fund the strategic goals. And okay. So one of the things that really benefited us this year when working on our 21 budget is what we could accomplish in 2020. And thanks to all the good planning and stuff by our leadership, we were able to come into this with being able to not start at 21 in the red. And, we have a lot to thanks for all the staff of the city, because we saved over $1.5 million estimated savings from personnel, from furloughed employees of $198,000, 56 hours of furloughs for 301,000, police non-commissioned at 20 hours for 9,500, and then 11 layoffs of 800,000 and part-time layoffs for 227,000. So even though these are some really hard decisions that were made, it really did benefit on working with our 21 budget. If this hadn't happened, we'd be having a whole different conversation tonight. So with that, primary focus is just maintaining basic services. As always, we go through a process of department budget development, work with each department head works with all their employees to come up with what they need to do for their departments on meeting the services that are needed and their goals. Budgets are looked at as zero base. We start off with nothing and then we're looking at what budgets we need to do to make that work. Then the mayor and the directors get together and talk about, have a lot of conversations and talk about what they need to do to meet those visions and goals and look at the expenses that are planned. And then the mayor brings it forward to council for discussion and to look at and for adoption. I know this is really hard for people to see it out there, but this is a discretionary budget analysis that I did for 2021. And as you can see, when you're looking at non-discretionary budget items, which include our salaries and benefits, other services, intergovernmental debt service, we had about 20, and this is for our governmental funds, over $27 million, where 93% of that total is non-discretionary. While our discretionary budgets, the things that we can control, is only 7%. And the things that are there is like overtime, supplies, other services, some capital. So it's really, and the lists are down below here, really we really don't, as a city, don't have a lot of room for cutting out discretionary services. The more we'd have to cut, the more we'd have to start cutting actual services and laying off staff and some of that other things for that non-discretionary. So this is an extremely low number. I know last year we were at 11%, I believe. So just something to keep in mind and look at how we're managing and bringing forward this budget this year. Citywide, our preliminary budget for 2021 is $71,172,319. This is a 1.5% increase from last year. The governmental operating budget is $36,014,260, and that's a 1.22% decrease. And I'll talk about these increases and decreases in a bit. The general fund balance used to balance the budget is $370,000. That number is actually a little lower after I talk about a couple adjustments at the end. And so we are meeting our estimated general fund balance at $5 million, just over $5 million, which is 17%. And remember, our fund balance policy, reserve policy, is at 15% for the general fund. So we are coming forward with a little higher. That number is still, for the city, is really good overall. Looking at other cities and stuff, that's still a lower percentage, but we try to bring that up as much as we can and we want in the future to do for any bonding or financing, or depending on what the economy is going to do for next year. So with that, Mayor, did you want to take over?
I think you want me to take over. So
please do.
All right. So when we look at spending money, I think it's really important to keep focused on what our mission and vision is, and really what basic services that we can deliver. And so as council has seen, we've adopted some strategic goals in 3-year increments with 4 sort of major categories. And so I wanted to just illustrate a few things that we were thinking about when developing our budget for 2021 that meets some of these goals. Certainly isn't exhaustive at all. It's just highlighting a few things. So next slide, Doug. Under infrastructure, we want to provide a high level of quality public facilities in a fiscally prudent manner. This is where we have to be really vigilant during COVID-19. The high quality public facilities is really important, that when we do open up back to the public, that we've done it in the safest manner possible. Some of the remodels that we've been talking about doing are going to ensure that we have quality public facilities when people start coming back in. Our city shop, we wanted to add those 2 bays to the mechanic shop. We're doing our very best. And so you'll see that funded, whether we can kind of even start that by the end of this year, but certainly going into first quarter, having that something that's maintained. And then continue forward progress on our Mount Vernon Library Commons and fire stations. As we've indicated through our budget discussions, it's not that we had lumped, more money from the budget specifically into these areas, other than the, LIFT award, which statutorily goes into those funds. But we want to continue forward progress on that. And so that's what budget amendments are for, after a good conversation with council. So we'll continue those conversations. Next up is healthy neighborhoods. And this is where we want to create an action plan to address the health of our, I'm going to have you go back there, Doug, you went twice, of our neighborhoods, including public safety, public health, environment, and appearance. There we go. So we do have continued work around the homelessness issue, working with Skagit County, the other mayors, Department of Commerce grants for shelter space. And so Mark had mentioned during public comment, wanting to get information out there. Absolutely. The council made decisions specifically to give some CARES money for that, hotel vouchers, and Department of Commerce awarded some funding in with Skagit County to do the same thing. So there is a significant amount of money out there, and hopefully that can help with the need. Maybe not all the need, but some. Around housing code work continues. Our community court is something that's been worked on for several years within the community. So we're realizing that as a therapeutic court that will stand up and hopefully connect folks with services, as well as reduce recidivism for low-level misdemeanor crimes. House Bill 1406 funds to community action for eviction prevention support to the tune of around $65,000, perfect timing for that funding. And then we're continuing decades-long commitment to community policing philosophy and service delivery when it comes to public safety. Next up is a good place for investment. We want to maintain a strong, proactive position toward prosperity to promote a vibrant business community, retain and recruit a talented workforce, a positive civic image, and establish the city as a good place for investment. That's why we want to continue working on Mount Vernon Library Commons project, hoping that there's stimulus funding, things that can really push us over the finish line on that. Our opportunity zone investments, we still are an opportunity zone. We've had a little bit come in here and there, but we'd love to be able to promote that. Our tourism promotion area, that's a countywide initiative that was signed off just recently. They've had their first board meeting, so when we can do tourism more safely and more robustly, that will be in place. Things like a Little Mountain Skills Park and Trailhead, we've really moved forward on, and we'll continue to move forward on that this coming year. And operations, just achieving efficiencies and professional services to meet our community's expectations through innovative management and governance. I'd have to say operations this year, your director team has been very, very innovative and met the community's expectations for the most part during our challenges. We've had significant technological upgrades, and that'll continue in thanks to some of the CARES funding to really get our staff the equipment that they need to continue working either remotely to meet those needs, such as the utility bill kiosk, updating hardware alone in order to keep us moving quicker, and as we have so much work that is done with technology now. Software support around NeoGov. If folks haven't noticed, we've kind of transitioned to a new HR support for job applications, and so that's a big time savings for a department of 2. Public safety personnel, our peer-to-peer support program started this in 2020. We'll continue into 2021 to really stand up and be as robust as possible. We did some reorganization of our library and recreation staffing model, and we're converting a planning coordinator position to a senior planner. Kind of talked about already what's included, the property tax new construction only. We are assuming a 5% reduction in sales tax from 2019 actuals to be as conservative as possible. talked a lot about the grant emergency medical transport funding, the GEMT funding that's used for capital equipment in our fire department, and the addition of managerial accounts of 912,000. And Doug will have to take it from here and explain that and move forward.
All right. Yeah, just a reminder about the additional managerial accounts. These are accounts that we have. It's basically, these are revenues that we hold for other entities. And based off of a new GASB that came out, and which was so nicely pointed out by our auditors, we have to start including all of these into our budgets and all of our financial statements. These are things like our Mount Vernon school impact fees, developer deposits, et cetera. We have like 5 of these accounts, and they total about $912,000. So that's when we're talking about our overall budget increasing, this is one reason for it right now. So
not our funds, but still
right. All right, so just moving on to the budget. So looking at our 21 proposed revenues, we'll talk about the revenues first. Our overall revenues are $69,889,986. This is about an $808,000 increase from or 1.2% from our 2020 budget. Increases for that, is like could be our GEMT money coming in at 1.57 next year. And then there's also included in this number that taxes have gone down overall by about $511,000. So in our governmental operating funds revenues, as you can see here, there's $34,620,000. 64% of our governmental funds are taxes, and for the property tax at 23, sales at 21, criminal justice at 2, EMS at 5, and utilities at 13. Again, like I just stated, their taxes, overall taxes are going down $511,000, and overall governmental funds as a total are going down about $900,000. This one is just kind of showing here, we'll look at not talking about the fund balances here, but this line here, the budgeted totals. Again, our budget for revenues are $69.8 million. That's an $808,000 increase. As you can see here, overall in taxes, we're going down 511 with 400,000 going down in sales tax and TBD going down 200. And then some of our increases here, I'll name our intergovernmental $720,000. That's where we'll see our GEMT funds of $1.5 million in there. So again, overall, that's a 1.2% increase. And then just another representation of a pie chart here. You can see that overall our biggest revenues are from a lot of this is our utilities for our charges for services at 33%. Okay, now I know everybody can see this, and I apologize how small this is. First of all, these for council, this presentation is in your council budget drive, so you can look at it. But really what this is just a complete look at our city's revenue budget. So down below here, it talks at this is each one of our funds that we have to budget for, and here's a list of all of our revenues and where each one is going. So as you can see down, or try to see down below here, our property tax is 12% of all our entire revenues, while here's the charges for services at 22. So just kind of a one-pager depicts our total revenues for our budget. Looking at the expense side now, the expense budget, what's included in that? We have fixed costs that we have to do. We had a Skagit 911 funds of $520,000. That's a $43,000 increase. Skagit County Emergency Services of $74,000. The mayor had talked about a new thing here with community courts, so that's the $35,000 increase. And then the state auditors going up $13,000. We have software maintenance with all the software contracts that we have are going up about $30,000. And then the YMCA contract. This is the third year of our contract. We prepaid the first few years, and so this is new in our budget this year at $50,000. So overall, in these fixed costs, we have many more fixed costs, but overall, just this is a $212,000 increase. So some of the things that we don't have funded, our ER&R contributions. I know we talked about this already, but we have, except for fire, because we're going to be using our GEMT and then all of our utilities, we didn't make any new contributions into the ER&R fund except for what we're planning on buying in 2021. This mainly affects our general fund, so like police and then also our parks fund. So those are the two main ones that are hit with that. As the mayor mentioned earlier, the fire station's infrastructure project, we don't have anything in our budget for that, but we do know that there's options that exist and that we will plan for that. And, if something comes up there, we'll look at doing some budget adjustments for that. Also unfunded, all non-essential travel has been removed. We don't have any travel in our budgets except for police and fire and their training and things that are essential to keep things moving there. Personnel, we have no new FTE requests, as well as the library and also parks had some savings by doing some reorganizations in both of those areas. We also have 4 unfunded positions this year. Finance has one, our utility customer services position. Parks has a recreation specialist and a CWP assistant supervisor, and then library has a full-time library assistant. We're not, in our budget, we're not eliminating these positions, but they are unfunded for 2021. So for 2022 budget, we'll reassess this and look at it to see if we need to fill them or not. All right. So our proposed budget for all funds is $71,172,319. So looking at it all in total here on the left side here, our governmental operating funds is about 51% of that, or 36 million of that. Enterprise funds are 26%. And then, and of that governmental operating funds here, you can see the majority of that is police and fire, which I will just move forward into the next slide here, where we are showing the actual, again, of our $36 million governmental funds. Our public safety and criminal justice is about 61% of that. So 30% for police, 25% for fire. Then we have some criminal justice, et cetera. And then the rest of the amounts here, you can see here are libraries 4%, parks and enrichment 6%, streets 6%, development services is 6%, and down at finance is 3%, and then city attorney, the mayors and council are around that 1%. So just kind of the pie chart to depict where a lot of these fundings are going to. Okay, another really hard one to look at here, but again, so this kind of just shows our total budget in one page here by looking at all the funds down here on the left, our 2020 adopted budget, our 21 proposed budget that's in the preliminary budget, and then the increases and decreases. Overall, our general fund is going down by about $36,000, and then total governmental operating funds, which include the city streets, parks, and library, are going down over $444,000. And then down below, you'll see that there is an increase overall in our budget of 1.5 million, or just over $1 million from 2020. And again, that does 912 of that is those managerial funds. I hope I wasn't seeing any yawning going on over there, but.
Hey, Doug, I got one question.
Yes.
Do you happen to know off the top of your head on the unfunded employees, how much that is?
Oh, can I look here for a second? Just right off the top of my head,
If I heard you correctly, you said they did not eliminate those, but they're just not
right. They're just
funded.
not funded, and they're not included in the budget.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I thought I had that right here, and I don't. I'm sorry. Oh, wait a minute.
That's okay.
I'll get that number and send it to you. I thought I had it right here, but I don't.
Okay, no problem.
So again, we're with the budget that we're presenting, that we are meeting all of our reserves for our reserve policy. General fund is 15%. We're going to be about at 17%. Parks, library, and streets are all at our reserve policy is 10%. Moving forward to up to 15%, and we're looking at about 16% on each of those. Again, another thing, just again talking about discretionary versus non-discretionary, we have our total salaries and benefits for our operating or governmental operating funds is about $25 million for salaries and benefits. Total taxes collected for, is only 22.2. So we have to find other revenue streams to to offset a lot of even some of this discretionary or non-discretionary funds or salaries and benefits. So something just keeping in mind that things are just getting tighter and tighter. And then again, there's still some unknown things. What's going to happen economically for like next year. Meeting our current needs and growing needs of the city. Operations with our current revenues. We know just poverty rates will be increasing, potentially increasing. Healthcare costs are increasing. Unemployment, hopefully, they'll be leveling off. But there's just a lot of things unknown right now in the economy that we have to keep an eye on. We've been moving forward with some of these things, looking at funding reactive homeless work, some of the other things that's going on with CWP is really heavily involved in, as well as our parks positions and solid waste. So there's things that we just don't know yet, and that's another reason I feel a little better about having at least a little extra in that fund reserve in case it's needed. And then, as I mentioned before, the ER&R. So on the general fund line items, we will be financing purchases in 2021. Without any policy change, because our policy change says right now that we will be funding those. And then, as I mentioned about major considerations or with GEMT, we anticipate about $1.5 million in GEMT funding next year, and which is a huge help with our ER&R this year, because fire, we all know how expensive fire is, and their equipment purchases and all their ER&R is going to be funded through GEMT, which was a significant savings to the general fund for that. So just kind of some statistics here looking at our spending per capita. Back in 2012, we had a population of 32,250 people, and it costs about $719 to run the city per person. And as you can see, it's kind of going up and then back down again in 2018 and then up in 2020. So this year, our population is estimated to be about 36,400. And with this current budget, we're sitting at $710 per capita. So, the city is spending less per capita to deliver all the services and accomplish our capital projects than it did, almost a decade ago. And then just another thing about our staffing and the population, as you can see here, our staffing in 2008 was 210 employees for 30,000 population, and then in 2019 we had 17 new FTE when we assumed the EMS program, so that's where there was this big jump in there. So last year we were at 235. This year we're still at 235, but we only have 231 of those budgeted in there. And then I could probably skip all this since you already did all this part. Just the property tax discussion. Our levy rate continues to decrease. And as I went forward earlier, again, our levy rate is, as was just approved, is below $2, which is in historic lows. And then again, as our assessed value keeps increasing and population is increasing, our levy rate is decreasing. So all good news to the citizens of Mount Vernon. And then our next steps. I know this is the last time I'm going to show this calendar, but as today we will be having the public hearing after this on the 21 budget. And after the public hearing, I'll just give some brief updates on some budget adjustments that need to be made to the preliminary budget, and then hopefully adoption of the 21 budget. So I hope I wasn't going too fast there. If there's any questions on this.
Any questions from council before we open the public hearing? Okay. In this time, we've had very specific instructions on our agenda. If folks wanted to participate in the public hearing, we were to allow testimony regarding the budget. And so information was on the agenda for that. And I do not believe that we had anyone who sent us any comments or called the mayor's office in order to attend the virtual hearing. So Peter, do you want to correct me if I'm wrong on that?
Nope, you're correct. There were no comments on the budget.
Okay, so I guess we open the public hearing. Seeing there's no comments on it, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing regarding the 2021 budget. All right, now it's up to council. Or Doug, you had a few things you wanted to share. Sorry, jumping ahead on adjustments that we already talked about.
Yeah, if council has any questions first that they wanted to talk about. If not, I was just gonna let me bring up something here real quick. Okay. All right. Is that, can you guys see that? Mm-hmm. Okay. So basically what all I have is that, you know, increases in our budgeted revenues. We had talked about, I had $100,000 for new construction estimated to come in before we got the final numbers from the county. And those numbers actually came in a little less. They were only $88,000, but I did not budget for any refunds, and those were $21,000. So we actually have an increase from our preliminary budget for property taxes by this $10,000. So that increased our general fund budget from 29,670,000 to 29,681,000. And then the only other adjustment I have this year so far, or unless you guys have any more, is in our Parks and Enrichment Fund of $2,997. And that was for reclassification requests in parks for an accounting tech to a senior administrative assistance. This was part of the reorganization plan that Director Berner had that resulted in savings to the parks. And even with this $2,000 in there that came in later, there's still a savings of $33,700. So with that, the ordinance is a budget for $71,175,316.
All right, any questions for Gary?
What's the ordinance number?
3817.
In all my years of being here, I've never had such an easy budget to deal with, and I just expect this to happen again next year. Doug, if you could do that. No, it's on a serious note. I mean, obviously there's been a lot of pain, you know, to get to this point as far as layoffs and furloughs. So I'm not trying to minimize that at all. But to be in this position, I never thought we would be in this position when March and April and May were rolling around. And so I think you guys have done a great job with this. And unless somebody else has any more comments, I'd move to approve ordinance 3817.
Second.
Okay, so there's a motion by Gary and a second by Mark. Any discussion?
Could I move for an amendment for consideration?
Sure.
what I'm wondering is um, when when COVID hit in March and April, and we were faced with the uncertainty, and now we are where we are, and we are still faced with an uncertainty for next year. What I'm wondering is, I know that there are some vehicle purchases and equipment purchases that I'm wondering if it wouldn't be prudent to wait until the end of the first quarter to see how the city is doing before we make those purchases.
So I know that in the past that council had done that. It's certainly something that, you know, if that's the pleasure of the council, that's fine. I think what we did run into though is Gary lines it up so quickly so that we get those purchases rolling even before January, and then we get our vehicles delivered. As the longer that we wait, we're like behind everybody else. And so what we found was we were getting significant delays in even just vehicles arriving. And so we'd place the order in March, but wouldn't get, say, like a police vehicle until November even. And so it did turn into a little bit of an issue for us. And so I don't know, we certainly can do that, but it can hamper delivery.
Okay.
Another thing to possibly just consider is also on that is that the prices tend to increase pretty fast too. And so that's another reason Gary tries to get that going. And then there's things like the fire truck that we have in there this year, or the ambulance, and some of that stuff, some of the larger equipment. Sometimes we don't get that for, as the mayor said, for many, many months. So, you know, to even get it in 21 sometimes is pushing it. But I mean, just to consider.
Okay.
So I think what Melissa was looking for is maybe not spending on a lot of the purchases, maybe not necessarily the vehicles, but on a lot of the other purchases that we have budgeted until we get an idea what the revenues are going to be. Maybe I could suggest a little bit of an adjustment to her proposed amendment and have it be that we not expend any or make any purchases until after the first quarter, unless it's approved by council. In other words, if we're going to save money on fire trucks or an ambulance or on police cars, and Gary says, hey, if we order them the 1st of April or 1st of January, we're going to save X number of dollars, and council says, yeah, we need to save that money, we can go ahead and authorize that. Is that kind of what you were thinking, Melissa?
It is. The last thing I want to do is not is spend more money, you know, by holding, you know, pushing it down the road, is spending more money that way. But also, I want to make sure that, you know, police and fire get the vehicles that they need as quickly as possible. So yes, Mark, thank you for that clarification.
So I'm trying to figure out, would it be helpful for Gary to take, I'm just looking at the page of our book with all the lists of equipment. So would it be sorry, would it be helpful if Gary went through this and then kind of showed you what he would recommend that we just move forward on, like right now, in order to get the best pricing on that, kind of on a, because I don't know if it would be timing wise for him, like every single order that we place. Would council be comfortable if he took like this sheet and kind of explained on when the best time he felt to order it was and what might be able to be delayed for a few months? Would that be okay?
So Mayor,
I would be comfortable with that.
Yeah, I don't see Gary on the call.
No, he's not.
But if we could still adopt the budget this evening.
Mhm.
In my opinion, we could still, if the amendment was to pass, we could adopt the budget this evening.
Mhm.
If Gary came to us anywhere between now and the end of the year and said, hey, we need to order these vehicles for next year by December 1st, in order to get this pricing, council can go ahead and authorize that list to move forward with that purchase.
Okay.
If there's significant savings for the city. I understand where Councilmember Beaton's coming from. We we started some contracts, we made a bunch of purchases, then COVID hit. And I think all of our concerns right now are we're unsure. The COVID spiking. The governor's going to issue some new recommendations or mandates next week. We don't know what those are going to be. We don't know how that's going to affect our overall budget moving into 2021. And I think Councilmember Beaton would like to have the ability to maybe control some of those costs until we get a clearer view.
Thanks, Mark, for articulating that so well.
And I'll second your amendment.
So is this, that is an amendment, right? So we vote on the amendment and then we vote on the motion. Just trying to get my.
So we would have to, majority of the council would have to approve the amendment. Once, if that's approved, it would be included in the, as the proposed budget, which we already have a motion on the floor for. If it was defeated or failed to have the affirmative vote, we would just move on the motion that's currently on the floor.
Okay. So I'm going to. Oh,
I
sorry.
ask?
Go ahead, Richard. Yeah.
Yeah. Can we accomplish what Melissa's asking without the amendment? Of course, the budget provides authority to buy these vehicles, etc. But you have to pull the trigger, Madam Mayor, on any of those things following Gary's. And so could we just do this with a friendly request that these things come back to us and we phase this rather than tying hands and having to vote later?
Well, they do, like when we do buy equipment in general, it does come back, as agenda item to approve, anyway. So I think either way is fine with me. I definitely hear the direction from council. So I'm certainly not going to bring forward, let's spend $1 million on equipment in 2 weeks and and all that. So so I think we could accomplish it either way. You still get a bite at the apple when we bring it forward.
Right. Any of these purchases will come before council.
I'm not sure that the intent of the amendment, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councilmember Beaton, I don't know that the intent of if it was just on vehicles. I think we're looking at all major purchases that the city may have.
Yes, and if I could, seeing that list from Gary, just that visual would just help me considerably.
Okay, because I think what we're able to do is just take a look at the vehicles. I mean, I'm just going to guess, but I'm going to educatedly tell you that we would really want to push forward on the fire and police vehicles like as soon as possible, because those are the longest lead times. Garbage trucks are a little bit different. And then the other equipment that's on here are things like a tractor or, air compressors. So those are different equipment items than the public safety items that I know for sure we experienced a significant delay on. So we'll have Gary do a memo for you on outlining that.
Can I say one more thing? Absolutely,
Sure.
yeah, that's a great idea. But on the list of the equipment that's on here, really the police are the only ones that don't have funding through ER&R. The rest of them, like all the utilities and now fire, all have funding through the set aside for this. So it's the police vehicles are the only ones that are going to affect the general fund or general government. Parks is not looking for anything, and none of the other smaller departments. So it's really just the police are the only ones that are going to affect the general fund. Just FYI.
So the last thing I want to do is not get the ball rolling on those police vehicles. I don't know, Mark, I don't know where we are in terms of procedure. I don't mind what Councilmember Brocksmith brought up. That certainly helps me out considerably.
So where we're at right now is if you wanted to withdraw your amendment, I could withdraw my second and we would be right back to the original motion.
Let me withdraw my amendment, please.
For clarification, I'll be happy to withdraw my second.
And I will happily restate that we will provide council with a memo in next meeting's packet that really outlines, when we would maybe even expend those funds, and that might help too.
I just want to say thank you all for your patience with me.
No, absolutely.
And
And
I'll stick with my first memo.
Okay, I don't want to cut off any other conversation though, because it's important. So any other conversation?
The only thing I'd like to say is that council, council worked with the mayor in the beginning of this whole COVID thing and worked with staff. Staff and the mayor were eager to work with council to put the council to put the city in a strong financial position coming in into the end of the year. I think there was several conversations that councils had with the mayor about the budget, how we wanted a lean and mean budget coming in, how we did not want to have any property tax increases. And I just want to express my gratitude towards the mayor and the staff for listening to that direction and making this budget process the easiest one I've ever been through.
Here, here.
I guess my 2 cents are that to me it's a frustrating budget because in process, and that's because it's clear how much pain the community's been through, and the sort of uncertainty of where we're going leaves us having to be very careful with this budget. So there's a lot of difficulties and sacrifice that the city has made, starting first and foremost with the staff who were furloughed or laid off, worse, and families associated with that. And I know we all feel bad about that, and I'm sorry the mayor and the directors had to go through that, and the staff had to go through that. But it seems like we had to make some of those decisions. I appreciate the staff for doing all that work, and for the mayor, I think we're really lucky to have such capable people leading the city. And I know you've made the best with the lemons that you're given. So on the other hand, it also seems like there's a lot that is not going funded in this budget that we're going to have to spend more time and effort on, and the hole's a little bit deeper. So anyhow, it's frustrating to go through it, but you made it as easy as possible, and the budget's in good shape. It is lean and mean, and so ready to move ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor, I didn't know if you were trying to unmute or not, so I apologize if I skipped over you. Okay. Okay. All right, with that, I don't see anyone else wanting to speak. There is a motion by Gary and a second by Mark to adopt Ordinance 3817, the 2021 city budget. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much. And thank you to council for being supportive of us during this year, and just know that we will be managing the budget just like we were doing in 2021. We'll be just as careful in 2021. I said that backwards. So it is all right. Thank you so much. And thank you for the directors who were also on the call and did a ton of work this year to make this all happen. So appreciate it. And we're going to do our best in 2021. Okay. Item D tonight, it is for the good of the order, and this is where we give some COVID-19 pandemic response and discussion, and also we have listed a CARES Act funding update. So first I'll have Peter Donovan join us, and he has an update on the CARES money and the grant allocations, and so I'm going to turn it over to Peter.
Thank you, Mayor, and congratulations, Council, on passing your budget. That's awesome. Also awesome is what you've done with the CARES funding for the community, and it's really been kind of the absolute best work that I wish we never had to do, but the pandemic is here, and here it is. So a glimpse at what you did with nonprofit support, $150,000 from the Department of Commerce. We've kind of reviewed this, and it's been mentioned tonight, the utility bill assistance. And then you got some thanks already pouring in from some of these nonprofits that you just directly supported without them having to fill out applications and go through any process. So that was an immediate impact, and those nonprofits have all received these payments in the last week or so. You also designated $300,000 for small business and really also nonprofit support. You opened this up to both, and this process again was administered by EDASC, and the awards were based on business size. They were open to any small business or nonprofit that qualified, which meant that they were smaller, 25 or fewer full-time employees, and of course having incurred their expenses that they were requesting reimbursement for after March 1st of this year, so that we knew that those were COVID-related expenses. And also we gave priority to locally owned and managed businesses. So the small grant recipients were notified today. There were over 60 applicants and 44 were selected. So those grants ranged from $1,300 each. There were 38 businesses and 6 nonprofits. So EDASC was really intent to make sure that they could make the biggest impact on those businesses based on their applications, based on their need, based on other funding that those businesses and nonprofits had received. So that is a little update for you on that CARES funding.
Any questions for Peter on that?
Peter, are you able to share with us who those recipients were?
I absolutely could name off all 44.
No, I didn't mean now. I mean, maybe you could drop us an email
tonight. Yes,
an email would be perfect.
I thought you might ask, so we have that list ready for you to take a look at. And again, the goal with those is to get that funding out as soon as possible. And so we're targeting at least prior to November 30th. But Doug promises me that he's going to do his best to giving. We'll see how that goes. Now that his schedule's freed up and the budget's passed. Absolutely.
Doug's going on vacation.
Okay.
Doug, you can't go on vacation. We got to get ready for the next audit.
All right. And
Mayor, I have that CARES funding.
Yep. Go ahead, Doug.
Did you want to? Did you want me to share that?
Yeah.
Okay. The status report. Okay.
Yeah.
Just because I wasn't getting enough talking in. So just wanted to give an update on our status report on the CARES funding. We have, if you remember, $1.6 million of grants, and we are on track of spending it all. I kind of combined things together here, you know, like these first 3 things, or the first 36% for like personnel, and we're coming in, you know, from the budgets that we presented to you, which was in this here, and then where things are actually coming in at. And then operations, all this PPE, technology, equipment, cleaning contracts with parks and remodeling some of the furniture. It's about 34% of that. And then the community, as far as like the community-wide info magazine, hotel vouchers, and then what Peter just talked about, the direct nonprofit support and the small business grants. I combine those all together too. So about 30% is going to the community. Some of these numbers might change a little bit up in these first 2 areas as things are coming in to get more solidified. But as right now, I don't know why I left $71 here. That really bothers me. But
we're not leaving that on the table.
No, we're not leaving it on the table. It's all going to be accounted for and used.
Any questions for Doug on that? We just wanted to kind of let you know that we're actually watching these pennies and dollars every single week and making sure that it's completely maximized. So, okay, great. Thank you, Doug. And then pandemic response and discussion. I was starting the Zoom when Governor Inslee went on the TV, so I really don't know what he said. Did anyone happen to catch that?
I cut part of it. Basically,
Okay.
what he's asking folks
Taped
to
it.
do is to do their Thanksgivings and Christmases via teleconference, to not gather. Um, he's going to possibly come out next week with some new guidelines or mandates, but really tonight was just a plea for people to not gather in large groups or outside of your immediate family to try to keep a curve on the pandemic.
Okay, thank you. Just to drive it home, we had an employee whose both in-laws passed away from COVID infections. And so, it is hitting our people here that live here and that are in our community. A friend of mine's wife was hospitalized last week. So, it's serious. Please take it seriously. And of course, all of our staff are reminded and take it very seriously as well. So thanks, Mark, for that. And I taped his remarks. So I'll go back and listen to him. One thing that we did under for the good of the order, Peter, Donovan had a quick item that happened to come up this last few days. I don't even think it's been a week, but anyway, Peter, I'll explain.
Yeah, it hasn't been long. And we haven't had
3
this
days.
conversation for a few years, really, about property surplus. And so a few phone calls to the mayor's office, also to the development services office, inquiring about a parcel. That parcel is on Garfield Street on the west side. And so I was out this afternoon, the helicopter got this shot. So that's just to orient you, that's west side, just north of Edgewater, that circle is. We'll zoom down there, and that is a city-owned parcel on Baker and Garfield Street. You see it's sort of right in the middle of residential, sort of an annoying parcel, if you ask me, because what do you do with that? So that's what I'm here to ask you about, because this parcel, where you see the red arrow, and this parcel are for sale right now. And so you can imagine that prospective buyers are interested in this city-owned parcel. And so I became extremely interested in this city-owned parcel this week. This is about the area where that parcel is. That is some yard clippings on our property. Right in the middle of, again, those two parcels that are for sale. There's nothing there. You see the power pole, that's actually just outside of, this is a terrible artwork on my part. It's actually in city right away. Information on the county website revealed the parcel number, that it's about 0.02 acres, which I had to look up. That's 871 square feet. And the tax value assessment is $3,500. That's the value that the county gave this parcel. I couldn't find any history on where this came from, why it's in the city's possession. We know that at least back to 1991, the records show that it's been in the city's possession, and it's locked in there between those two privately owned parcels. So that is something that some buyers have expressed interest in acquiring. So I called Kevin and asked him to remind me what that surplus process might look like if council was interested in surplusing and selling this. So the way that looks is city staff looks into, is there any value in this property? Should we keep it? Do we have immediate use for it? Do we have future use for it? And we checked in already with all the departments and public works, parks, so streets, solid waste. No one had any plans or foreseeable use for this parcel. So I wanted to bring that to council to let you know about it, because if you wanted to list this property, the way that we've done this in the past is a sealed bid process. We put out the announcement that this parcel is possibly available. We just invite bids to see if there's a market for it and what that market is. We would set a time frame for that process, let's say tomorrow morning to December 15th. And then we, on December 15th, open those bids, and we have the opportunity to allow the high bidder to purchase at their bidding price. I believe, and Kevin will correct me, he's here, council also has the option of deciding not to surplus at that point and not to sell. So the process of bidding would be to just kind of gauge the market and gauge the interest for this. Kevin, are we close?
Yeah, because this isn't purchased through your utility, you have a lot of discretion in how you dispose of it. Certainly before you dispose of it, you should declare it surplus to the public need. But beyond that, there's no state procedure that limits your ability to transfer this property to others. You can negotiate with specific parties, or you can go out to seek bids. Council has a lot of discretion on that.
Hey,
So-
Peter, do you know, sorry, Mark, do you know the folks that have reached out to you, is it the same purchaser for both pieces of land, for both pieces of property?
It would be. It sounds like this potential sale of those two neighboring parcels hasn't been listed officially, but the owner maybe has been talking about doing that, and those who have expressed interest in buying those two parcels have also expressed interest to us about the city-owned property.
Have they expressed interest in putting in like some multi-family housing, like a triplex or something like that?
I heard from one of them that there may be some interest in multifamily at that location.
Thank you.
I think that property on that side of the river is a little bit difficult to build on, being in a floodway and things, and I'm sure there's ways around that. But as far as the city owning that piece of property, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us to keep possession of that. So I would say we need to move forward and surplus that.
I agree.
And all those funds that'll come in from that can go into the Library Commons project.
Come pouring in.
It may have to go back into, if didn't utilities bought it, right? Anyway, we'll figure that. The $1.50.
We'll figure that out. Love it or list it. We're going to list it.
So
All
is
right.
that, I'm seeing kind of consensus at council. We'll go ahead and move forward, and then you can make a decision based on what comes back. Okay, fantastic.
Thanks.
Thank you for that. All right, any other kind of discussion around COVID response, or any other questions before we? Okay. With that, we've completed our regularly scheduled agenda items. Kevin, is there a need for an executive session this evening?
No.
Excellent. Then with that, we will be adjourned at 8:07. Thank you so much, council, for your budget work.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night.
Have a good night.